during his short life. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. You will change your mind, you will change your looks, you will change your smile and laugh and ways, but no matter what you change, you will always be you. The old law about an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. The time is always right to do the right thing. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. And for that, I would like to thank all of the guards that have been called to the state, to DC, the National Guards who have been called to protect our Constitution and the process. And with that, if everyone would please rise and
Thank you, Amy. Let the record reflect that all school board members are in attendance, and I am participating by WebEx this evening. School board superintendent, school board clerk, and school board attorney are also in attendance. And board members, the roll call order for tonight will be Member Calderon, Member Sanchez, Member Kraus, Vice Chair Pennock, and then myself. Clerk Moramus, if you have any blue forms, would you please acknowledge those folks in attendance?
I received no form, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Superintendent, do you have any agenda modifications?
Madam Chair, I have just one. The addendum for good cause is marked on our electronic agenda by a green flag named addendum item.
Thank you. School board members, do you have any modifications or questions? Member Calderon?
No, ma'am.
Member Sanchez?
No modifications, thank you.
Thank you. Member Kraus?
No modifications.
Vice Chair Pennock?
No, ma'am.
Thank you all. And I have a clarification on 5D like dog. Is there a motion to approve the agenda outline?
Move
So
to
moved.
approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Superintendent, any presentations, recognitions?
Yes, we'll be starting out with our Seminole County Veteran of the Month.
Thank you.
My name is Martin Dunlop. I'm the principal of Rock Lake Middle School, and I'm here to speak about Sergeant Bugos, who joined the United States Marine Corps his junior year of high school and entered boot camp the summer after his graduation in 1989. After boot camp, Thomas served 7 years as a mechanic for aircraft ground support equipment. He served 2 years in Japan from 1990 to 1992, and the remainder of his time at HMX-1, the United States Presidential Helicopter Squadron from 1992 to 1996 in Quantico, Virginia. Upon completion of his service, he studied political science at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, and earned his teaching certification at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. He became a middle school social studies teacher with Seminole County Public Schools, where he has resided for the past 15 years. In addition to teaching, he holds board member positions on the Central Florida AFL-CIO, as well as a chair for the Florida Educators Association Elections and Credentials Committee, and is currently a building representative for the Seminole Teachers Association. Thomas, thank you for your service to the United States and to Seminole County Public Schools. Once again, congratulations on being recognized as one of our Seminole County Public Schools Veteran of the Month.
Good evening, board members. This evening, I am pleased to recognize some of our schools and bookkeepers who had perfect internal accounts audits this year. Now, as you know, each year we hire a CPA firm to audit the school's internal accounts or school funds. These audits put a magnifying glass on our bookkeepers and review their work to ensure that they follow the required purchasing, banking, reporting, and record-keeping policies and procedures. People often don't realize how much we depend on our bookkeepers for the crucial role that they play in financial compliance and quality control. They are the ones who enter the initial data that ultimately feeds into the district's overall financial reports. They're often the ones who keep our principals and administrators up to date on purchasing policies and procedures, account coding, available budget, and district changes. And on top of that, many of our bookkeepers wear multiple hats at their schools, filling in wherever their schools need them. School bookkeepers are a key part of the district's overall finance function. When they do a great job, they reduce the risk to the district, and they make our jobs a lot easier. So this year was particularly difficult, as you know, with COVID and working from home. So it's no small feat that more than half of our schools, 32 in total, had perfect audits. We have 5 schools in particular and 4 school bookkeepers tonight who warrant special recognition because they've had clean audits for 3 or more consecutive years. My co-CFO, Todd Cease, our internal accounts analyst, Lorena Bruno, and I went out to the schools and met with the bookkeepers and the principals of the schools, gave them their certificates, and congratulated them on doing such a fantastic job for the district. Tonight, I want to share this information with the board to formally recognize the following schools who have 0 audit findings for the past 3 years. And I know not everybody could make it tonight, so I'm not sure who's here, but if you are here, I'd like you to stand up. The first school is Caroline Elementary School, and the principal, Dr. Dan Windish. We also have Keith Elementary School with Principal Joanne Kramperth. Rainbow Elementary School with Principal Christy Marshall. Woodlands Elementary School with Patricia May, Principal. And Jackson Heights Middle School, who deserves special recognition because they've had 4 clean audits in a row. Fantastic job, Principal Sarah Mansour. And I'd also like to recognize the bookkeepers individually who have had 3 or more clean audits in a row. Mary Lee Sawyers is from Keith Elementary School. Marilyn Kirker from Rainbow Elementary School. Colleen Barber from Woodlands Elementary School. And Karen Crossan from Jackson Heights is the one responsible for 4 clean audits in a row, which is a fantastic feat. Thank you all so much. And before I sign off, I did want to have one more person who deserves recognition. That's our internal accounts analyst, Lorena Bruno. Lorena works tirelessly as the district's go-to resource for all things related to school internal funds and accounts. She's the point person who coordinates the audit for us. She provides the bookkeepers with support, training, advice, problem solving. She's there for them. She's a big part of the process and a big part of us getting those clean audits. So I wanted to say thank you, Lorena, and congratulations, everyone. And we thank the board as well for all the support you give our team. Thank you.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Griffin, and audience participants. I am pleased to present one of our newest assistant principals at Markham Woods Middle School, John Robert Miller, Jr. Mr. Miller's life mission is to inspire all people to live and serve in a way that enables them to reach their full potential. He is in his 14th year as an educator with broad experience, having served in a variety of teaching and administrative support roles in several counties. Mr. Miller is excited and grateful for the opportunity to serve the Markham Woods Middle School community by supporting teachers and advocating for student success. Joining him tonight is his family, his wife, Dr. Edna Jones Miller, and their two daughters, Jessica Robin and Jordan Rose. Also joining them is Assistant Principal Charles Bennett and the Principal of Markham Woods Middle School, Linda Mummy. Okay, next I would like to present the new assistant principal at Lawton Childs Middle School, Dr. Jonathan Drew Taylor. Dr. Taylor started teaching in 2009 as a science teacher for Hillsborough County Public Schools. In 2012, he started teaching reading at Tuscaloosa Middle School. In 2017, Dr. Taylor moved into the role of instructional coach at Tuscaloosa Middle School. Dr. Taylor earned his doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Central Florida in 2019. Joining him tonight in celebrating is his new principal, Dr. Melissa Ladani.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dennis Lima, the Seminole County Sheriff. I have a great honor to issue an award to my wonderful friend and a friend to our community, Dr. Walt Griffin. If you can just bear with me a little bit, I kind of want to read a little bit about the history. And I don't think I have to share with this group is, we now find ourselves, maybe for the first time in history, dependent upon this very, very unique relationship with sheriffs and police departments and superintendent and school principals and faculty and staff. So we're very blessed here in Seminole County. The direct influence of that relationship is affected every single day in our communities, not just on the campuses. The children that we have the opportunity to touch and their parents really goes a long way. I believe that everyone has recognized that schools are a part of our overall community, community that we work hard to make sure that is safe and secure and healthy. It should go without saying that the Seminole County Public Schools is a leader in education throughout Central Florida, the state, and nation, and widely recognized as the premier national school district. What is just as impressive is the size of the district, being the 12th largest school district in the state of Florida and the 60th nationally, with more than 67,000 students and more than 8,000 employees. The work and career of Superintendent Griffin is really the mission of the public school system and really the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. On your end, it's to ensure that all students acquire the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to be productive members, and our end to enhance the quality of life of all of our citizens. You've spent your entire adult life doing that. The vision of Seminole County Public Schools is to be recognized nationally for high standards, academic performance, and offering students customized educational pathways. Some of your achievements that have positively influenced Seminole County Public Schools, students, and our overall community. And by the way, I had to cut this down. I mean, I had like a list of like so many things. So excuse the brevity as I cut these things down, but there was a few things that I did highlight in here that I think is unique to our relationship together. Increasing the career technical and vocational education for students. Having no D or F schools in Seminole County, and I know that's a reflection of your leadership and a reflection of all the people in the room that work so hard with the students day in and day out to accomplish that. Established a foreign language in all elementary schools, which is quite remarkable. Established the Great Start program, highest graduation rate ever at 2019 and 2020. Look, if you're going to retire, this is the way to do it. You know what I mean? Come on the heels of this. And then, of course, germane to our relationship, Model Safe School program, where there was a dedicated, professionally trained school resource deputy or officer on every single public school campus in Seminole County well before the mandate. Perhaps more importantly, for me as the elected sheriff of Seminole County, back in March of 2016, you had entered with the assistance of our school board members into this very unique relationship with the sheriff's office with the support of our Board of County Commission to allow Captain Rick Francis to provide oversight of school safety and security for the entire district, something that we're extremely proud of, and I know you are as well. Since then, we've worked diligently together to create the most proactive approach to school safety. Twice a year, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office hosts a member recognition ceremony, or more commonly referred to as an awards banquet. Like so many other things in 2020 that has presented us challenge, this year we are only able to host a virtual ceremony for the members of our agency. The awards committee consists of members of our agency representing all departments, consisting of sworn, certified, and civilian members of the agency. Their job is to review each person that is nominated for an award and then determine the worthiness of formal recognition. On October 7th, 2020, School Safety Director Rick Francis, Captain Rick Francis, proudly nominated Superintendent Dr. Walt Griffin for the Seminole County Sheriff's Office Community Service Award for his or your exceptional service and support of Seminole County and our communities. The Community Service Award is typically presented for outstanding achievement or exceptional effort to benefit the community, such as achievements for inside and outside of the normal functions of a professional group. This award is also presented to citizens for demonstrating similar efforts. Our award committee determined that the nomination and recommendation was better suited for a Sheriff's Commendation Award, which is one of our highest honors that we have at the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. It is awarded at my discretion for efforts and diligence that go well beyond the call of duty. This is typically the award that we would give to citizens for acting in a heroic way and involved in sometimes dangerous situations. I think we offer 2 or 3 per year. I cannot agree more with the recommendation. I appreciate our relationship, your friendship, your dedication and support of our kids in Seminole County. It makes me proud to always say that my kids attend Seminole County Public Schools. And then your commitment to safety and civility on our school campus. You will surely be missed, but I trust that your legacy will live on in Seminole County forever. So, Rick, if you'll join me up here, it is my honor to present you with the Sheriff's Commendation Award.
Who do we have today, Mr. Godrow?
Good afternoon, or evening. While we have our teachers getting set up, I want to read a little something to you. Dr. Griffin and board members, the executive director solicited feedback from 6 amazing visual and performing arts teachers last week regarding the blended model that many of our teachers are utilizing instructionally. Understanding their challenges and successes, we wanted to find out how our teachers, these teachers, are managing the blended model. These teachers were able to share their experiences and solutions in support of other visual and performing arts teachers who are working in the blended setting. They are open to discussing what has worked and what continues to be a work in progress. So I'm going to do some introductions, and then we're going to start with some discussion that they want to kind of tell you how things are going. On your far left, we have Holly Ricker, dance teacher at Millennium Middle School. And then going down the line, Casey Minderman, band teacher at Greenwood Lakes Middle School. Josh Goldstein, visual arts teachers at Lake Orienta Elementary School. Michelle Lutzo, music teacher at Goldsboro Elementary School. Sandra Rivas, visual arts teacher at Lake Howe High School. And Stephen Porter, dance teacher at Lyman High School. So we're going to start the discussion with Ms. Holly Ricker, and she's going to give you a little bit insight into how her somewhat year and a third or year and a eighth has gone so far. Ms. Ricker?
Hello. Real close, right there. All right, I teach at Millennium Middle School. I have the dance program there. Dr. Griffin started it with me way back, a long time ago.
Just a few years ago.
Just a couple of years. And for me, this is my 36th year of teaching, and so for me to have to do the distance learning last quarter of last year, and then the hybrid this year, it's been a little bit of a learning curve. It's very different than what I'm used to doing. But Dr. Griffin has always taught me that the students are the most important thing. And if I'm teaching dance, I'm getting just a little teary here. If I'm teaching dance, I think that the kids need to have the opportunity to perform. So even though we couldn't have a real performance where we put them on the stage in their costumes with their makeup and their hair, what we did was I also thought that the Seminole County, the Seminole Connect kids should be part of it too. So I taught a dance in the classroom. The ones on hybrid, they learned it, and in face-to-face learned it. And then we had an after-school practice with the Seminole Connect kids came, and we practiced on the stage all together. Then the next week, or a couple of weeks later, we had another time where the Seminole Connect kids came in after school and met with my face-to-face kids. They put on the costumes, they did their hair, they did their makeup, and they danced on the stage in their hair with their hair and makeup done. Didn't really have an audience at all, but I recorded them. And I recorded all 14 dances, and then we put it together as a fall dance show movie. And I rented a 30-foot screen for outside, and I painted 140 10-foot boxes out on the PE field, and we had enough for 70 families where the families could come and be separated, by a box. And they came, it was December 9th, I don't know if you remember it, but it's pretty cold. So they came, they brought their chairs, their blankets, their hot chocolate, and they came with their families and sat and watched the show on the big screen outside. It was beautiful, it was wonderful. And having the kids right with their parents, that was even cooler, because usually they're on the stage and then afterwards they get the accolades. But this time they were right there and their parents could say, oh, that was a nice job. So anyhow, that's my fun experience.
Thank you. Casey?
Good evening. Let me take this off. My name is Casey Minderman. I'm a second-year teacher at Greenwood Lakes. It's been a wild 2 years. I first want to thank the board and district for providing this space for arts teachers to speak as we work in very different atmospheres than your traditional classroom. I'm hoping that the panel tonight can help you imagine teaching in our shoes. Starting with successes, during distance learning, middle school band directors met weekly to discuss pedagogy and how to figure out how to do the distance learning thing during March. And that was organized by Dr. Lindsay Williams. I feel that Dr. Williams has been an incredible asset, especially in helping new teachers improve their instruction, pandemic or not. And then jumping to this school year, The blend of face-to-face and Connect, teaching both at the same time, has allowed me to reintroduce full ensemble rehearsals, so I can have students in front of me playing while kids at home are listening and playing along, and that allowed me to have a winter concert where they could eventually come together and play together. And we did a similar event to what Ms. Ricker did, which was a lot of fun. I do believe that as we celebrate our teacher successes, it is also crucial to consider the challenges that we face getting here. Performing arts teachers are notorious for putting in hours upon hours of extra work for the benefit of their program. Most are guilty of doing so without asking for added recognition or compensation. And I would love for teachers to be more upfront with the work that we put in, especially now that what is expected of us has increased tremendously. In my case, just to give you some numbers, I know it's well known that teachers put in a lot of work, but not a lot of time is it laid out for you. So in my case, I added 3 hours to my workday every day for the month of September so the beginning band students could individually and safely test instruments. Through the entire first quarter, myself and my roommate, who is also an SCPS teacher, worked up until midnight most nights to create materials for classes while figuring out how to play instruments safely. I spent 20 hours outside of the school day to film, edit, and present our virtual winter concert. This is all in addition to the hours spent after school to let students practice and weekly hours of preparation that have become routine, that I don't even consider at this point. I and all my colleagues do this because we deeply care about our students and our programs, and I ask that when the board and district offers solutions to its teachers, that they do so without taking advantage of that good nature. To further give you a little bit of insight into what it's like to be a band director during COVID, I want to put you in my shoes for planning for instruction as a middle school band director. We teach in a feedback loop, so student demonstrates understanding, teacher provides feedback, student makes correction, teacher provides feedback, and so on. The ways a student answers a question or demonstrates their understanding in my class is through audible performance, not something that you can type in a WebEx chat. You cannot conduct any full group formative assessment, since we all know multiple students unmuting at the same time is a disaster. And in order to give Connect students a valuable feedback during my class time, I have to listen to individuals. So if you had just 15 Connect students, 5 minutes each, that's 75 minutes of class time devoted to one-on-one instruction, which is amazing for that one-on-one instruction, but it is an undertaking to figure out how to fit that within a class time. Let's see. This is also assuming that technology is working smoothly, which we all know may or may not happen. Meanwhile, you also have face-to-face students that you must instruct and supervise, managing the safety of the live performing group playing or singing in spaces that follow CDC guidelines. Even with the many solutions that fellow band directors have shared with me, I have yet to uncover a balance where I am able to provide both sets of students the same quality of music education at the same time. That's only my story. I surveyed other band directors thinking that I could narrow what I was going to talk about today, and I found out that everybody had a different problem that required different solutions. So my number one request of the board tonight would be to continue to listen to other arts teachers, listen to their struggles, the solutions that they have DIY'd, and the support that they seek. Lastly, I do want to emphasize that I am very proud of myself and my colleagues for making performing arts work during a pandemic. Will I continue to problem solve to benefit, to best fit the needs of teaching during COVID? Absolutely. However, is the current blended model sustainable beyond the pandemic? I do not believe so. When those in this room decide in the coming months what our new normal will look like post-COVID, once we have ensured the safety of our students and staff, I hope that you will first and foremost consider what model will best allow your teachers to provide a quality education to all students. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Casey. Josh?
I'm so not used to speaking without a mask, so my full voice sounds strange to me. First of all, thank you for inviting me to speak to you this evening. This has been probably, it goes without saying, one of the most difficult years and strangest years, including that first year where I used to stand up and fall asleep mid-sentence because it was my first year of teaching first grade. And I know the urges to be tough and carry on, but I want to thank every school board member and administrator who's truly given their staff and faculty the grace that this year has required, so thank you all for that. And we need to continue more of that even into next school year. I'm also grateful to the Department of Teaching and Learning and Mary Lane and everybody who realized that elementary special educators would have incredible numbers of students and asked me, instead of having us teach blended, gave us the option of letting me create these Nearpod lessons. So I'm a little bit different. We're not actually teaching blended the way that some of our other teachers are. Anyway, I'm an adjunct at VCC, and I can tell you that even there, my dean understands that creating an online course and an in-person course are two unique skill sets that require education on the part of the facilitator, as well as time to create those materials. So I see my classroom teachers working to create online and face-to-face content. I can't imagine the effort that it would take for us to do that for 700 or 1,000 students. So it was a really good idea. And those T2T sessions over the summer were so greatly appreciated. I hope we'll continue to do those. And they were a great intro to online learning for teachers, for me especially. I'm grateful that the music teacher at LKO and I had the foresight to create an online learning platform on eCampus years ago. And I think this may have given some of my students a leg up, as I know many of them struggled to understand how online learning works. They can navigate a smartphone and make a TikTok just fine, but like you ask them to upload a file or send an email to a teacher, that's beyond them. So I definitely like to see going forward, and I think I've spoken to many teachers about this, an emphasis on digital literacy going forward. Maybe even see us work toward hopefully a goal of like 1 device per student would be amazing. I know that's a big undertaking, but the big takeaway is that digital literacy needs to be taught explicitly at all grade levels, maybe even as a special area subject. It's been a big deal at my school. One of the positive takeaways that I am really grateful for, aside from the fact that I now have a whole range of teaching tools under my belt, Nearpod, Flipgrid, video editing, and even a better understanding of universal design for learning, is the shift in perspective. So one example is, for years I've been saying I need to highlight more student art. We get to do these art shows and we have 40 kids participating, you know. Ever since art shows have gone by the wayside, I've been looking into digital museums and video editing and other ways of expanding art shows to include more of my students. As art educators, we only get 40 minutes with our students weekly if we're lucky. And for those students who crave more recognition and connection, a digital platform is really a great solution for that. This situation has the potential to do what blended learning actually promises, which is expand learning paths, place, and pace. While Connect is not necessarily there yet, I think it's pushed elementary educators to begin to gather the tools that we need to make it happen. Teachers just need that same expansion of pace, time, and place to begin to create these blended learning situations in our classroom. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you, Josh. Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm from Goldsboro Elementary. I've been teaching there. This is my 16th year at Goldsboro. I've been very fortunate to be part of such a great community. I am the lucky one that I get to teach my Seminole Connect kids. I had the opportunity to use the Nearpods that were provided. I actually was one of the teachers that was selected to write some of the Nearpods. But at the beginning of the school year, we had 30% of our kids at the school and the rest were online. And the one thing that I've learned from March, April, and May of last year is that my kids were doing the Nearpods and they were being successful and it was great, but I really missed that engagement. I missed that connection, and they missed it too. I opened up some just lunches with Miss Lutzo during that time, and kids just came to tell me jokes and just to talk, and they just missed that interaction. So when I found out that we had that opportunity to do the Nearpods, I asked my admin, I said, you know, that's great, and I'll do that, but I really miss my kids. Can I teach them? Can I try? And we were already doing our STEM labs online, and we already had blended classrooms from previous years. And so she said, yeah, go for it. And so I approached it as a complete learning experience. I told the kids, you know, just like a science experiment, not everything's gonna go right, and we're gonna try, and we might have internet issues. I was the crazy one that tried to unmute them all at the same time. It doesn't work, but it was a good attempt, and we learned from it. We talked about the success and the not so success during it. But the kids are learning that nothing has to always be perfect. As long as we're giving our best, that's all that matters. So each lesson that I do online, I focus the same standards as we're focusing on in the classroom. We have to be extra creative because they don't have the instruments that we have in the classroom. So normally I would say go grab a maraca. Well, some kids have a basket of instruments, maybe like 2. So I said, okay, well, what makes a maraca sound? And so we talk about how the instrument's making the sound, and then I said, okay, scavenger hunt, go find a maraca. And so kids came back with boxes of mac and cheese. And for scrapers, they came back with water bottles that had the wrapper peeled off, and they were scraping it as instruments. And at that point, that was my first lesson, and I realized, wow, these kids are more excited about music than just going to the cabinet and grabbing an instrument, because they were taking ownership of that unique way of learning. And so I provided that opportunity, but I also provided times just for them to show me things. One kid goes, can I show you my Christmas tree? Sure. So they grabbed the laptop and went running off to show me their Christmas tree. And that meant the world to them. And so during this whole time, it's not about necessarily, are they mastering every skill that we could teach them? This could be a really lonely time for them at home when their parents are working and they're just sitting there staring at a computer screen all day. And so just providing that opportunity to connect with someone on a real basis. So that's one of my positive takeaways. My second one is that the kids are actually using their higher order thinking skills so much better, because once again, they can't just go to a cabinet, they can't just read music. They've got to start coming up with ways on how can I participate positively. And then they also will show me more because, oh, I have a piano. Can I play a song for you? Sure. I have 16 keyboards in my classroom, and those same kids would never go to a keyboard and say, can I play the song for you? Because they were always nervous about who is listening. Online, it gives them that they're in their bedroom, they close the door, and they feel empowered. So they're sharing a lot more. The third thing that I absolutely love is that parents are getting to see what I do in my classroom on a daily basis. I have parents actually joining my lessons, which normally it's, how was your day? What did you do? Work. What specials did you go to? Music. What'd you do? Sang a song. Like, they didn't actually get to see what the kids are doing. So now parents are getting an accurate view of what we do as teachers, and I'm getting more and more positive emails from parents going, I didn't realize my child could do this. So I don't have to advocate for my program because my program is now in their house, which is phenomenal. Same thing as the panelists before me said, we create ways for kids to perform. For Veterans Day, we always do a big performance at Goldsboro, and we couldn't do that this year. So what I did is I sent out something on Google Classroom, and I said, if you want to be part of this, send a video. I'll compile it as a group. And so we did a virtual chorus, and kids were singing into it, and I put some veteran pictures, and it went out on the news, and kids have looked at that and said, well, I want to perform on the news. And so they're going out and about recording themselves and getting themselves put on the news in the morning. So they're finding different opportunities to find these performances. So does everything go perfectly? No, but it's how we look at it and trying to just keep that positive spin for these kids, because that's really what they need.
Thank you, Michelle. Sandra?
So nice to see half your faces. I'm Sandra. I'm from Lake Howell High School. I've been teaching for 24 years, and this has been by far the hardest year I've had. The moment I found out that I was going to teach face-to-face, I had a 24-hour nervous breakdown. My husband went out and purchased me copious amounts of sushi to try and make me happy. And I kept repeating to myself for those 24 hours, how am I going to teach a kid how to draw or paint over a webcam? Now, I'm not one to sit back and let things steamroll over me, so after I stuffed myself full of tuna rolls, I texted my tech guy at school, I texted another coworker, and we got to brainstorming. I owe them my life. The tech guy at school found an amazing little camera. It's called a Hue, H-U-E. It's a gooseneck. It's amazing. I love it. It has saved me countless times. It's super portable. I can plug it into all kinds of different computers, so that was such a blessing. I also got myself a Bluetooth headset. I got a Bluetooth USB. I made sure it worked all over my classroom, and you've all been to my classroom. You know how big it is. So I got together with my coworker, we figured out how to work WebEx, even though I'd never touched it before. We made sure everything worked, and so I felt exhausted by the end of the first 2 weeks of school, but I felt semi-confident that I was going to be successful. Now, one of the things that I want to touch on is how the Seminole Connect kids feel when they're home. They feel like they want to be a part of the classroom and not, as they put it to me, secondhand citizens, which a lot of them feel like they are because they're home, they're stuck there. So I learned that if they think we're watching them, they work more, which is a good thing in my case. So to solve that little thing, what I did, and I really hope none of my kids hear this, I set up my camera so that they're looking at examples and they don't know I'm at the computer all the time. They think I do because my headset works anywhere in the room, so I'll be across the room and I'll say, hey kids, get to work. And they think I'm looking at them, which is perfect, and I really hope none of my kids heard that. I also learned that I need to engage my kids at home more because they're physically not with me. For my kids to buy into what I'm teaching, they needed to know that I was there and that I care for them as much as I cared for the kids that are physically in my classroom. I constantly ask them to show me their work, and I try to give them quick positive critiques to make sure that they knew that I cared. I comment about how cool their room looks. I comment about their pets. I comment about why they're eating and why they're not sharing with me. Little things like that not only made them feel special, but they also reminded them that I'm watching them, and to make sure that they were working, and also they knew that I was invested in them. I even said hello to the random parent who would pop in, and they would run out of the room so fast. It's so funny to watch. At the end of every class period, I asked the question of the day, and it got so popular that kids that left Seminole Connect and came back face-to-face have asked me if they could participate still in the question of the day. My questions were super simple, like what's better, chocolate or vanilla, to something a little more quote-unquote complex, like what's your dream college and why? The chocolate and vanilla question, I will say, caused a very heated discussion. I didn't realize so many people were very, very passionate about chocolate and vanilla. These kids know more about me. The kids on Seminole Connect know more about me than my kids in class because I constantly try to engage them more to make them feel like they're part of my class, which has been very, very good. My kids who have come back from Seminole Connect, in particular my beginner students, will come up to me, and I don't have them this semester. They'll come to my classroom just to tell me thank you for making them feel like I cared, which means a lot, and that's something I'm definitely going to take with me from this school year. Now, that's not to say that this school year has been perfect. It has not. There have been days where all of my tech will crash, and I'll have to use my cell phone to WebEx. There have been days where I have argued with Seminole Connect students over turning on their cameras. There have been days where kids will turn in work that I know they didn't do, and all I do is a quick Google search, and there it is. There have been days where I will walk in my classroom a mile or more because I'm running from my students to the camera, to the computer, to this, that. So it has been exhausting. If it wasn't for the full support of the school and the admin at the school and my husband and my friends for venting, honestly, there have been days where I think about why am I teaching? And I'm getting a little emotional because it's true. Thank you so much for listening to us. We sometimes in the arts don't feel like we're listened to, and this means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to everybody on this panel, so thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Stephen?
Hi, I'm Stephen Porter, and I've had the privilege of teaching the dance program at Lyman High School for the past 20 years. And so when this year began and all the new ideas started rolling out, how we were going to teach this blended learning, it really started to reveal some of the things that I knew I wasn't great at. And it scared me, and some of the new technology that we were using, it frightened me, and I had that momentary breakdown as well. And what I did was I went to my fellow teachers that I knew that were great at it, that were already good, and I really leaned on them for a few weeks to get me started, and they gave me the first few things that I needed, and I still am, from time to time calling for their assistance in questions and things that they've already, gone through. And so I figured out a few ways to make my dance classroom work better through this. One, I contacted the technology department, and they got me a few more Chromebooks in my classroom where I was able to use cameras in them and take the video from different angles for dance. So I have a camera that's high in the back so that they can really see projected through the mirror. And then I also figured out that a lot of students like to see it from the front as well. So I have one low in the front so that the students that are online can look at the dance from the back or from the front, whichever modality and direction that works best for them. I know sometimes when I'm teaching, I can tell that a student doesn't understand it because maybe they're looking at me from the right or from the left angle, and so I know to get right in front of them where they can see me. Everyone works a little bit different, so I realized that these things are needed by the students that were online. Paired with the things that we were doing to keep safety and distance, I know that a lot of talk is about 6-foot distance, but in dance it's a moving target. You take a couple steps to the right or you take a couple steps to the left, and it's hard to keep that distance in the dance classroom. So I decided to utilize the most distance in my classroom. I made an 8x8 blocks, like I taped it off because we don't have desks in dance class, but I wanted them to kind of have their safe space or like a home base that they're working from and that they felt secure and that we could clean at the end of the class. So I figured out a way that I could block it out that was a lot like the staging that I would do in a dance show. It also helped the students that were online, so they, at first, in the beginning, I numbered them. So if they had a question, well, which block am I in? I could point, to number 3. You're gonna move forward into the number 3 block, And that seemed to help them. Another thing that was a little different this year was preparing for the eCampus, all the lessons that I was putting in there. It was more time than I had ever spent prepping for my classes, and I have to agree, although I've gotten them better at finishing and completing assignments, it's hard sometimes to get them to actually turn it in. And even though the students sometimes, I know that they're really good at technology, they grew up with it, I think that they're not always the best at navigating through it. So I've had to take some time in class and show them how, this is how we're gonna turn in a video assignment, and this is how you're gonna record it, this is how you're gonna upload it, this is how you're gonna make sure that you get the grade that you deserve. I can look around the classroom and I can say, these students really understand. I've always feel like I've been good at that, looking and telling what they need help on, what they're good, what I need to review more. But I will say, in the takeaway, I've been doing a lot more video assignments where I have to look at them individually, and it really tells me that no matter what, if this all goes away, that I will always keep some of this video assignments going on where I look at them individually, because it really shows me there's no hiding. You can't hide behind someone in class, and I can really tell if you know those skills, if you know those combinations, if you're really getting that information. I pride myself in knowing what makes my students tick. What excites them about coming to dance class, what motivates them to want to work hard for me. And I know that in dance, that it is performing a lot of times. They are looking forward to that next time they get to do something public. And this scared me that, I was losing the carrot to get them to work hard in this class. And so I thought I was gonna lose that concert in winter. And I talked with administration about how we could limit the size of our audience and stream our dance show live, which is scary, because everything is for the world to see. And it was a success, and I'm proud that I was able to make it work, and it excited the students that although the auditorium wasn't going to be completely filled like normal for the show, that maybe the potential for more people to see it than ever in the world online excited them in a new way, and I think it's something that will continue.
Thank you, Stephen. And Dr. Griffin and board members, I think you can see why these panelists are amazing representatives of our fantastic visual and performing arts teachers.
I'm having trouble hearing you, Mr. Gaudreau.
Sorry, Ms. Almond. What we'd like to do now is see if the board and Dr. Griffin have any direct questions for our panelists.
I'm going to start.
Okay, Member Calderon?
I don't have any questions, but I have a group hug. I mean, you all just proved that the arts are alive in Seminole County, and it's because of each and every one of you and your colleagues and your passion, your compassion, your extraordinary efforts, your talents, and I've never been so proud to have a group of professional teachers sit before this board. You were phenomenal. You're phenomenal every day. We know how hard in our limited school visits this year, walking in your classrooms, seeing how hard you're working, but you are helping those children perform, create art, sing, shake a macaroni and cheese box. I mean, think about it. That's what we did in preschool, right? And that was music, and that was the best art we ever gave our parents, and that was the best singing we ever did. You know, it's when we get older, all of a sudden we don't think we have those talents. But from the bottom of my heart, I'm sure the board agrees. Y'all are rock stars. Thank you for not only being here tonight, but for all you do each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Sanchez?
I'd like to say pretty much the same thing. I've been in many of your classrooms, and I've seen so many wonderful things that have taken place, and I know the past year and a half, has it been? I don't even know anymore, year now, have been so challenging, and coming from the classroom, I can't even imagine what you go through day in and day out and trying to plan and have to improvise your lessons and get to know the children that are online as well as your kids in the classroom and try to make it work. And the dedication that you have is just amazing, and that you wake up every morning, and some days you probably don't even want to wake up and have to deal with this, and I can't thank you enough. And I know there's a lot of hiccups, and we're trying to work them out, and having you here to voice your concerns and being honest with us is critical. We are here to listen to you, and we don't want you to ever think that your ideas, that we're not admiring everything that you have to do or not realizing how much that you're losing so much sleep over different things and the stress that you're having. But every day you make a difference in so many lives. And when you're just talking about looking at the Christmas tree or seeing somebody's animal or the family atmosphere, you're getting to know the children in a different way as well, and the mental, emotional help that you're helping with them as well as your colleagues. And I can't thank you enough. And please continue to know that we're very supportive of you and that we want to still help you as much as we can. That this is something that we never expected, and we know we still have a long road ahead of us, hopefully not too long, but we are here for you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Member Kraft?
Thank you, Chairman Almond. I too echo all the sentiments of gratitude for all of you. I would like to understand how we can share best practices. I heard you say that your classes were too short in band. Is a block schedule a possibility? Would that be helpful for you? I also heard you say that you met with the other middle school band directors and collaborated. Is there a way we can help facilitate the best practices so you all don't have to keep recreating the wheel? Do you have suggestions for us?
I am in block schedule, so even that has been tough. What I notice when we meet with other band directors is every site has a different schedule, whether it's block, whether it's all 7. Every site handles the blended versus just connect versus just face-to-face a little different. So I would suggest getting together the different sites and figuring out what does work best for each individual type of class, and maybe having a little more unified structure across the county for how we deal with the blended.
Like, I feel like this would be an exceptional PD for you all, to be able to work directly with your peers and focus that. I have so much admiration for all of you, and please feel free to email me any suggestions or thoughts. I'm open, and thank you all.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock?
Thank you all for being here. I will have to say, as a parent, I got to sit on the couch with my kiddo and watch her band performance, and it was a unique experience. Just as you say, she got to say, oh, that's so-and-so, or that's so-and-so, look what, or I did that. And so as a parent, that was really cool to be able to experience that with her. As the arts, I would have to say probably one of the best outcomes we have seen is that you guys have been in the front of more people than you ever have been. And it's awesome. It's awesome to see how unique each of you have created performances, how each of you have done different teaching methods. Mr. Minderman, we were in your class. It was fun watching you. I got to see you at Millennium also when you were the intern. It's been challenging, but the outcome, I think, is that the arts is more present than the math competitions that we used to go to, the science or the robotics. You guys have been out there, and it's been wonderful. My ask of you is, if there is something that you need more successful, please let us know, because we're not in your classroom every day, and we don't see and we don't hear. And if there is something that we can help facilitate, like digital literacy, I wrote that down, that is a fantastic point to take away. What can we help make you feel like you're successful, because you're, in our eyes, you already are. So I'm grateful for you.
Thank you. I would like to say that I applaud your dedication to your students. I would also like to tell you that I admire how you embrace the challenges that you've been faced with, and you impress me with your innovation. I thank you very, very much. Dr. Griffin?
Teachers, thank you for being here. As a former algebra teacher, I don't know how you did your jobs pre-COVID, no less during COVID. I have to be honest. I mean, I walk into your classes every time I go to the schools, and Holly, I've known you for years and years, and Sandra, and I'm amazed by what you do. And it's something I think you need to celebrate. First of all, I heard all of you speaking about your students and the value of the relationships, but a lot of our students, especially the ones who are home on Connect, are not there by choice, and they are lonely, and we are worried about mental health issues and so on, and the arts are a phenomenal outlet. The arts, combined with the relationship with all of you, is making this doable for students who are struggling the most. And don't ever forget or lose value in what you are doing for our students. It's very, very important. I also want you to know, I'm going to brag on this board a little bit. We went through a lot during the reopening plan, and you know that while all this is going on, we're also dealing with a budget crisis. There aren't as many students, there's not as much money coming in, and there was not one mention of reducing arts opportunities for our students. And I can't tell you how important that is, and it's because they value all of you, they value the arts, and they know the importance to our students. Now we really know the importance to our students, because so many students are having so many issues, and we're concerned about them. Just as I've always appreciated the arts, I had the pleasure of being the founder of Millennium with Holly, right? And you art teachers taught this math guy a whole lot, and I just value you and appreciate you, and I'm just honored to be part of your team. Sincerely, thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we've come to the public comment section, and since I am not there, Vice Chair Pennock, would you please take care of the people who are in attendance who have public comments? Following that, if Clerk Moramus would please read the comments that you received earlier in the day. Thank you.
We have one public comment from Dan Smith. If you come to the podium and speak after I read the notice. The public input segment of the meeting is provided for the purpose of permitting persons to present specific matters to the board for its consideration and action or referral to the superintendent and his staff. The public input segment of this meeting is not open to presentations of campaign issues by political candidates, matters involving student disciplinary action, pending employee disciplinary matters, or pending litigation. Each individual member of the public is limited to 3 minutes. A designated group representative may have up to 6 minutes. Dan, you're up.
Thank you. Sorry. My name is Dan Smith. I am an employee of Seminole County Public Schools. I live in Longwood, Florida, and I'm currently the president of the Seminole Education Association. School districts are going to begin receiving their coronavirus response and relief 2021 money, from my understanding, by Friday. Okay? And also the districts have broad flexibility with the use of the, forgive me, ESSER, I don't know if it's a word or not, but that's where I got it from, funding to give about 4 times the amount of the prior amount. What I've seen, Seminole receiving about $44.5 million. Now, I'm hoping that among the many items that public schools can barely afford to start with, that the district consider allotting some of this funding to a program that assists the employees who have had to make the difficult choice of whether they're going to return to work or not. If they choose not to return, some type of program that may help them or offset their insurance costs while they are out on leave as well. As we have, once they're out on leave, they're not getting income and they're not getting insurance as well. I'd be happy to meet and discuss any assistance programs, anything's on the table. And we know, although we don't know everything about COVID yet, we know a lot more about how our employees are working than we did in the fall. The other item is, and this is in the agenda packet regarding what we had already ratified over the salary schedules for teachers, that's in your packet on the agenda. It's all valid and accurate. I just would like you to consider in that document itself, of the salary schedule, it does state that the stipends will increase by the percentage equal to the overall percentage of teacher salaries. Now, this year was a little bit different because some teachers got 1.8% increase and some teachers got 18.9% increase. So even if we're looking at the bottom possible that they got would be about 3%. Otherwise, it ranges to almost 6.2% district-wide. Just know for information, the numbers don't reflect that in the salary schedule. It comes closer to about 1.3% than it does the 3% average. And the other thing on there that we had mentioned previously, but it's there again just to look at it, on the placement schedule page itself, there's now information such as Social Security, retirement, insurance, sick, total compensation. And this is the first time it was ever in our CBA was last year, and it was very confusing for our teachers trying to figure out what their base was. Now, I've only been here since 2002, but since 2002 to 2019, we only identified what their salary was, and then we had differentials below. The additional stuff, it may come out to a lot more money, but like if I'm looking for a job that pays $100,000, and then I find out that it really only pays $50,000 because my total compensation would be $100,000, it's just confusing, right? It doesn't really need to be there. So Finally, I'd like to just discuss class size, and please ask that that be go to the top priority. Just this afternoon, I had a very productive talk with the HR department, and it's clear the district is trying to figure class size out. I mean, it's very clear from the conversation we had. There's no doubt about it. Teachers feel better if we had some type of timeline or something we could look at. Now, I know under regular circumstances, it's very, very difficult to do, to schedule or level 67,000 people. But we're looking more pandemic-wise than we are just number-wise and burden-wise this time. And with a lot of them coming back, that is the concern. The district's done a very good job with this issue, but we're still on the incline, and we still need to be vigilant with the spread. People want good news, and they're going to go with it very easily. We have, just to keep our guard up, or in case with what we're doing right now, it's going to get bad. Just for example, a unnamed high school, since I didn't ask permission for this, in the district, the principal found it a good idea, a safe bet to not have a homecoming dance because of social distancing. It makes sense. But there's a parent group in that particular area who wants to hold a dance, and it looks like a homecoming dance. Now, I know there's nothing the principal could do, but what I'm saying about vigilance, just to keep an eye on these things, because people will closely try to find anything for good news for this type of thing, and it's just a concern that they would have. So even though the principal has done a very good job communicating that it's not SCPS sanctioned, these things just make us worry when we start seeing good news with that. So I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
we had 3 comments submitted for the record. The first comment is from Shelley Pedraza, President of County Council PTA. And she writes, PTA writes in support of continuing to follow the science and CDC guidelines in our Seminole County schools. As many start to receive COVID vaccines throughout Seminole County, I would like to remind everyone that we need to make sure we continue to prioritize the health and safety of our children and educators. The PTA understands that the opening and continuation of our nation's pre-K through 12 school during COVID-19 pandemic is vital to ensure the continuity of education. However, it should not outweigh the safety and the mental and physical health of our students, educators, school employees, and families. It is our association's position that plans shall continue to incorporate the best available science and the expertise of infectious disease doctors and health practitioners. Plans should continue to follow the most up-to-date Center for Disease Control guidelines, including but not limited to reasonable social distancing, vigorous sanitizing, processes, and viral screenings, testing protocols, and masks. Our school board has done an amazing job of following the science and making sure CDC guidelines including the use of masks is being followed at all of our Seminole County schools. At the end of the day, we all strive for the same outcome. Parents, teachers, bus drivers, support staff, custodians, administrators, and school board members, we all want to make sure everyone stays safe. We want to make sure our students continue to learn and grow, and all of our staff can go to work knowing we are all doing our part to keep them and their families safe and well. Thank you, Dr. Griffin, our superintendent, and our school board members for making hard but needed decisions and making sure everyone continues to stay safe. Shelley Pedraza. The second public comment comes from Dr. Jeff Siskin. I am here to make the observation, express a concern, and provide a suggestion as you move forward with your selection of a future superintendent. In doing so, I am not being critical of the work or decisions of the board, its staff, its search committee, the applicants thus far, the suggested candidates, or more local educators. I was born in Sanford. SCPS is known as a high-performing, highly sought-after school district. But let's face it, when we look at the numbers, recent superintendent applicants, we weren't so sought after. SCPS only received about 20 applications outside the district. Why? Certainly COVID might have impacted this, and the Sunshine Law does limit some possible candidates from applying. Also, the fact that Florida has some of the largest school districts and the limits of more local control through the state-determined educational funding as well as legislation do not entice some outside the state to apply. But at this point, you have 5 suggested candidates. All 5 have their primary work experience within the state. All 5 have degrees from Florida institutions, 3 from UCF. All 5 come from either Seminole, Orange, or Lake County. That is like the Ivy League school doing a national search of the best and brightest students and accepting those only from Massachusetts, New York, and Connecticut. 30 years ago, when Seminole County moved to an appointed superintendent, the school board determined the existing superintendent needed to apply. Although they indicated they might select him, they indicated they wanted a national search to hear fresh concepts and outside of what we're used to thinking. They thought other perspectives might be helpful. Even if a specific individual was not hired, board members and district staff might still gain some valuable ideas. I do realize familiarity with Florida law and Florida funding is certainly an advantage for any candidate, but to use another Ivy League school analogy, such schools do accept students from the South who have not lived previously in cold weather. Students like professionals adjust and learn. For instance, Dr. Haggerty. My suggestion, it not simply to consider any other candidate within the group of applicants. Again, I am not questioning the decision of the search committee, but instead I wonder if it would be worth it to re-advertise again and see if you find additional worthy finalists. There seemed to be ample room in your timeline. Dr. Vogel and Dr. Griffin were not selected until mid-April. I doubt it will take 2 months to negotiate the superintendent's contract. Specifically, I wonder if the district re-advertised in February, if you might find some additional worthy finalists before you begin interviewing, which could take place in March or early April. To conclude, I try to imagine myself as a superintendent in early October 2020, just starting a new school year dealing with COVID, knowing my application would become public, most likely having some of my district school board members reelected or elected in early November. Again, I wonder if you find some additional worthy finalists if you had another opportunity to apply. The third comment comes from Julia Roberts. The decision to make or abdicate today will affect your children's physical and mental health long-term. I'm asking that you allow mask choice in our public schools. Masks are not an accessory. They are a medical device that are being misused, are largely misunderstood, and pose many unintended consequences. Today, I will be quoting directly from the Alachua Chronicle's well-researched article, "Research does not support face mask orders." To start, the World Health Organization's June 5th guideline states, at the present time, the widespread use of masks by healthy people in the community setting is not yet supported by high quality or direct scientific evidence, and there are potential benefits and harms to consider. A paper by the Epidemiology and Modeling Group at the University of Cambridge begins by assuming that masks are 50% effective at stopping exhaled virus. The Cambridge authors admit that they make assumptions and simplifications about the effectiveness of face masks. They also say that the effectiveness number is based on bacterial studies, which are irrelevant since the largest virus is smaller than the smallest bacterium, according to WebMD. Other papers offer pure speculation, like one in the American Association for the Advancement of Science. The authors argue for masks on the basis that they stop virus-containing droplets 5 to 10 microns, but then they admit that SARS-CoV-2 virions are contained in submicron aerosols, as is the case for influenza virus. The larger droplets fall to the ground quickly, so masks would theoretically be most useful in stopping aerosols. However, actual tests of cloth masks show that they allow between 74% and 90% of penetration by aerosols. Wearing masks should be based on actual science, not mathematical models. Most of the federal and state response to COVID-19 was based on the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, IHME models from the University of Washington, despite the medical experts warning against it. Dennis Rancourt's literature review concluded that several potential harms, including sources of enhanced transmission, mask collecting and retaining pathogens that the mask wearer would otherwise avoid, and dangers of bacterial growth on a used and loaded mask. Dr. Russell Balick warns by wearing masks and exhaled viruses will not be able to escape and will concentrate in the nasal passages, either in the olfactory nerves, and travel to the brain. I implore you, balance your advisory board, review all the research, consider all of the consequences for the teachers, for the children, for their health and well-being, present and future. Thank you, Julia. That concludes public comment, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So I had on item 5D like David. In December, we did committee assignments for board members, and one of the assignments was the Foundation Takes Stock in Children's Committee. Member Pennock had been assigned to that. After the assignment, we found out that a member no longer serves on that particular committee. So the committee assignment list has been updated and noted. Thank you. Dr. Griffin, no items removed for separate consideration. Do you have a recommendation on discipline dispositions?
That the School Board of Seminole County approve the student disciplinary recommendations from December 14th, 2020.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Approve. Second.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
No unfinished business. Dr. Griffin, do you have new business?
We still have to approve the consent agenda, so let me just pull back to that. Is that?
Okay. Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay.
Get me back on track. I got so many notes. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Dr. Griffin, new business?
Yes, I'd like Mr. Rinaldi to come up, please. It's a short presentation related to the ILA.
Richard LeBlanc, Director of Project Management and Facilities.
Greg Johnson, Associate School Board Attorney.
Thank you. We want to give you a brief overlay of the next two items, new items. We have the ILA, the 2020 Interlocal Agreement for Public School Facility Planning and School Concurrency, and we have Amendment number 1 to the ILA as well. In taking a look, one of the questions that comes up is why do we do an ILA? And I'd like to share with you one of the core whereases at the introduction that kind of sets the table as to why we work with the other municipalities in the county in the development of this ILA. County, cities, and school board have determined that it is necessary and appropriate to cooperate to provide adequate public school facilities in a timely manner and at appropriate locations to eliminate any deficit of student stations and to provide capacity for projected new growth. This ILA has a number of items with what I just stated there really being the concurrency piece. But in addition to that, we also establish committees whereby we develop a relationship and we share information between the county and the other municipalities specific to student enrollment growth, population projections, and other issues that we deal with in regards to development and the overall quality of life within Seminole County. In addition to that, we coordinate and share information, and that information is wide-ranging. It includes information pertaining to the quality of life issues, information pertaining to projects which we have planned both 5, 10 years out, as well as projects which the municipalities and counties have planned as well. In addition to that, we share school selection, remodeling, and any potential school closures. So we work closely with our partners to develop our capital improvement plan, which is part of what we share with them as during this ILA. And then we get into really the two big pieces which have to do with currency. First of all, we do rezoning reviews. So if a project is getting ready to go to the planning and zoning, then we do a preliminary review as to whether we have capacity available. And then finally, once it gets to final site plan, we do a full school concurrency review, which is a development review, and we we approve and we reserve capacity for that developer for the projects which they are planning to do. So that's kind of the core of why we do an ILA, and it's all part of good, smart planning and quality of life when it comes to Seminole County. In regards to the process we're going through right now, the ILA, which we are presently under, was approved in 2007. So it's roughly 13 years old. There are a number of issues which I'll present to you that have changed both in the way in which we are funded, the manner in which we have educational needs within the district as well. But first of all, I'd like to identify the two committees that I referenced. First, we have what we call the PTAC committee, and that's a Planning Technical Advisory Committee. And that committee started meeting in November of 2019. We had 4 meetings with that group. I would say an average of about 2 to 2.5 hours going through the specifics in the ILA, with one that went probably 4 hours plus at the very end, where we actually came to resolve all of the issues that we had been working through. I've shared with you all of the cities and the individuals within those cities, and the PTAC is the planning professionals. Typically, we have community development directors or senior planners that are on that committee, so it's really the nuts and bolts group. And once that committee gets a document which they feel comfortable with, then they make a recommendation to the next committee, which is known as the Public School Facility Planning Committee, or the PSFPC. And that group has met twice in 20, reviewing the recommendations which came from PTAC. And those individuals are elected officials from the municipalities that are going to ultimately sign the document. I've shared those individuals' names as well. There was really a significant amount of scrubbing and presentation and work with that committee as well. And I'd like to really commend at the PTAC level, to go in our terms, we had a number of people that had perfect attendance. And then on top of that, they even came to the PSFPC meetings in order to support their PSFPC members as well. So there was a lot of flow of information that got us to the point of where we are today, which is the draft document, which you all are going to be reviewing and hopefully approving. And at this point right now, the city of Altamont Springs has approved the base document. They have not approved the amendment. And I would say over the next 3 to 4 weeks, I've got presentations and work sessions with all the other parties as well. In regards to the overall history, I just wanted to give you a brief history. In addition to bringing the committees together, we also had mayors and managers, and I did a presentation with them towards the end of 2019. We also had a legal review by the attorneys, which Greg was instrumental in helping us out. And as you can see, we had fairly good participation with some of the core municipalities, and we reached out to all of them, but we did get feedback and comments and red lines from those attorneys as well as we went through the process. So the PTAC approved the ILA for submittal to the PSFPC on the 21st of October, and then the PSFPC met on November 5th, and they reviewed the document, and they approved the document and gave me authorization to distribute that document to the municipalities. At this point right now, I've cited here the board and commissions were expecting schedule approvals January and February of 2021, which we're in the middle right now. We were hoping for a planned enactment, and that would mean that all of the parties had signed the document in March. So we would actually be working within that document at that point. And then the final step for the municipalities is they have to do a comp plan amendment. And we determined that 10 months would be an ideal time for them to do that comp plan amendment. So you can see that the process we've gone through. In regards to the critical factors, one of the things that we look to do with the new ILA is align with school board policy, and specifically policy 5120, school attendance zones and interzone transfers. And one of the elements we brought into that policy was program capacity at the elementary level. So right now, the document as it stands has program capacity, which is 95% of fish capacity at the elementary levels. At the middle school and high school levels, we're already using program capacity at 90 and 95% respectively, so that maintains. One of the big changes that we made was we took a look as a group with the PTAC at the size of the concurrency service areas. And that is the number of schools that are within a zone when a developer comes in that developer would draw capacity from. And at the elementary level, we had an average of about 4 schools within that zone, and it turned out to be a very wide geographic area, not only with that CSA, but by statute, we also have to use capacity in the contiguous CSAs. So actually, at the middle school level, we had one middle school that could access the full county. So, I mean, there were issues in regards to geography, there were issues in regards to transportation, there were issues in regards to where development was happening. We were giving them capacity far away from where that development was and what the cost would be to accommodate that development. So our proposal at the elementary level is to go to 2 schools, and that reduced the number of student stations from 3,100 down to 1,700 students. At the middle and high schools, we did transition to single schools. So that was a transition at the middle school level of 4,100 students and down to 1,300 students, almost 1,400 students. And at the high school, we went from 6,100 students down to 2,700 students. So we have very compact CSAs with the ILA that's being proposed at this point. Some other additional items that we had, we were looking at de minimis impact in order to give some relief to the developers that were doing small developments. Now, if a single-family development comes in that only has 4 units, it's exempt from going through the ILA. If a multifamily development comes in that has 8 units, it's exempt from going through the process as well. And that just gives us, and really, a 4-unit and an 8-unit development and a single-family generates less than a child. So at that point, it made sense to give relief to the developers and not have them go through the paperwork. Now, in addition to that, we also have de minimis for us as well. In the former 2007 ILA, if we had an increase or reduction of 5% in student stations, then we would have to notify the PTAC. That basically for a 700 student station elementary school is 1 portable. So we propose increasing that from 5% to 15% so that if we go to the PTAC, it is a significant increase relative to the existing student capacity. So that worked through as well. In addition to that, when a reservation is made now, it's at the point that we approve what we call their SCALV letter, where in the past it would be when the county approved their final site plan. So at this point right now, that developer up front gets that reservations. They have 30 days to submit for the site plan review, and then they have 2 years to actually get the full permitting as well. In addition to that, we clarified what the timelines would be for the reservations. In the former ILA, it was for the life of the development, and we had a lot of developers that were holding reservations, but we were 8, 9, 10 years out. We really weren't moving forward, but if we were moving forward, it was at a very, very slow pace. So we've identified now that the developer has 30 days to get in for their site plan review, 2 years to get their final site plan approval. If they're moving forward and there's some delay and the municipality requests we extend it for an additional year, we do that. In addition to that, once they get approval, they have 4 years from the time they start vertical construction to the time that they actually complete. If they get to the end of that 4 years and they're still moving along well and the municipality requests, then we will entertain and approve extending it for an additional year. So overall, if we have a developer that runs it right to the end for the actual approval of the permitting and then runs the construction out, we've got 8 years to get from SCALD approval to the final construction and certificate of occupancies for the project. Continuing elements.
Thank you, Mr. Rinaldi.
Yes, ma'am.
Board members, do you have any questions? Member Calderon?
I don't think Mr. Rinaldi's finished.
Yep, I've got a couple more things. So in regards to the continuing elements, I already talked about by statute, we have to continue to use contiguous CSAs. The impact fees, if we get into a situation where we don't have capacity and we negotiate with a developer, then they will be provided impact fee credits for what we negotiate. And all structures on the campuses now, including permanent, bricks and mortar, portable classrooms, as well as any of the modular classrooms, the concretable, all of those are calculated into the actual capacity for that school. And finally, I wanted to talk, just to give you a brief overview on the amendment. Amendment 1, that's the second item tonight. We did receive questions from county staff on the 12th, and there were about 40 questions, and there were issues and clarifications that they were looking for us to provide, and we did provide our response back to them in writing. That was at the same time on the 12th, the BOCC had a work session, and there were a number of questions that the commissioners had. Many of them paralleled the written questions that we received. But the content of the amendment, there's really 5 items. We corrected a formula for available capacity where it needed a word to identify program capacity needed to be added. We deleted a reference to an eliminated section, so it was a Scribner's error. We deleted a sentence to avoid any confusion as to the timeline for reservations. Unfortunately, the word life of was still in there, so the 8 years I just talked about. So we deleted that. It could have been interpreted that, you know, the life ends once you hit year 8, but we felt it was clear to delete that section as well. We had punctuation error, typographic error that we corrected in 13.1. And in 13.1B, we clarified that PTAC is primarily an advisory committee and a work group, and we eliminated the fact that we would be inviting the PSFPC members, though they are. If they notify me that they're coming, then I'll turn that into a meeting under the sunshine as well. Now, what we're doing at this point is county staff has requested that we meet and discuss, and we're scheduled for this Friday to sit with them and go through those 40 items and any additional items that have come up as a result of their coordination with the commissioners. So that's where we stand right now, and we're here for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rinaldi. Member Calderon, any questions?
I think just a comment, because I didn't even think about advertising for the sunshine, your last comment, if any of the electeds wanted to come to the PTAC meeting. I don't think it has to be put into this document, but we might want to have clarification to all elected officials that they have a cutoff time to tell you, so our clerk can advertise it correctly, just so they don't think they just have to tell you the afternoon before. If we do need to advertise it, we might want to take the high road and just put it as an additional document to remind all elected officials, because there's obviously different terms that we all sit under as elected officials, and there might be newly elected people on this committee that don't know that. That would be my only suggestion.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all your work and all the time you're taking to meet with all the municipalities and all the years of work you've had with these two committees. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I'm just so thrilled that we're at this point. That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Member Sanchez?
Just thank you also. One quick question. I know that the questions were received just about a week and a half ago, and then the questions are going to be answered, am I hearing correctly, on Friday, the 23rd? Or just starting to work on them? Because I think it's such a short turnaround time, but is that common?
Well, county staff submitted the questions to us on the 12th, and we sent our response to county staff on Friday.
Okay.
So they've received us, and then the following Friday, they're going through our responses, and we're going to meet the following Friday.
Perfect.
So it's all of us are very familiar with this document, so
Awesome.
I mean, we could almost know exactly which section they're talking, which page they're talking about.
Perfect.
So
Thank you so much,
was fine.
guys.
Thank you. Member Kraus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just echo the sentiments. Thank you for all your work on this, and I'm excited to finally get it passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock?
I want to give my fellow members just a little bit of history so that you can understand how big this is. This is the third iteration of this document. It originally started in 2001, was revised in 2007 and 2008, and I'm beyond impressed that within this past year, we were able to get all the municipalities, the staff, the legal departments, and the PSFPC members together to review the document, create a timeline, and meet the timeline with the exception of a few hiccups here and there. Everyone worked tirelessly, our staff included. I've been included in some of the conversations that happened over the weekends and at nights, and it's just been amazing. I'm thankful to all of the municipalities, our legal teams, for the effort to get this where we are, and I think that it helps provide us with flexibility, with the capacity to not be so restrictive. I'm proud that we're at this place. Our county deserves this document to be in place. It gives us parameters to follow, and thank you, Joe, and your team for, gosh, I'm smarter because I was in this process. So
Well,
thank you.
Richard and Greg have done a lot of heavy lifting, so I appreciate, I mean, it was definitely a team effort.
And that's all from me.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you to your team. It's nothing short of a miracle to get this done. And you're very much appreciated for your efforts. Done a great job. Thank you. Dr. Griffin, you have a recommendation, please? A.
I'd have a quick comment first. Today we had mayors and managers. Ms. Almond and I attended, and we had a short conversation about the ILA, and I will tell you that everyone is on board to get this accomplished. I think the document strikes that good balance between appropriately controlling growth and meeting student capacity, a very difficult task, and it looks very different than it did 13 years ago when this was last done. But I think there is a commitment to get it done. I will tell you the county has a work session on February 9th. I anticipate there may be a couple of little tweaks, I don't know, but if there are, we'll come up with a document that all, 9 of us, 10 of us can sign, and I may have to bring it back with some minor changes on it. But we are almost there, and Ms. Penning, thank you for your leadership chairing the committee. It's not an easy task. This has been going on for a long time, but it felt real good today, speaking to mayors and managers and seeing all the heads nodding, and the county commission is part of mayors and managers. Nicole was there, as well as Chair Constantine. and they're all shaking their heads. They want to get this done. So I think we're almost there, finally. It's good news. Okay, I'm ready to read my recommendations, Ms. Alman. Okay, my
Thank you.
first recommendation is that the School Board of Seminole County approve the 2020 Interlocal Agreement for Public School Facility Planning and School Concurrency.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there a motion?
Yes.
Second, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent, do you have another recommendation?
I do. My second recommendation is that the School Board of Seminole County approve the First Amendment to the 2020 Interlocal Agreement for Public School Facility Planning and School Concurrency.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Superintendent, do you have a report?
All 4 of my items are read-only.
Thank you. Board members, do you have anything to report? Dr. Calderon.
From the Insurance and Wellness Committee, I just wanted to remind everybody that the Walt Walk virtual registration is open until February 12th, and plan on walking your 5K with your family and loved ones sometime between February 14th and 28th. I think I'm going to make it my Valentine's date with my husband, and we'll go walk our 5K together. Also, the Seminole County Public Schools Fitness Challenge has started, and thank you, board members, for creating that team that we're all on together. Registration is still open until February 22nd, and all of our employees going through this successfully can also earn a point for their 5 points that they need this year for their insurance. So that is an exciting new added benefit. Our wellness center that we were all at the ribbon cutting a while ago with Orlando Health in between the transportation and maintenance. We're really excited, and we don't want to jinx it, but coming up this spring with our partnership with Orlando Health, they will be providing to us a nurse practitioner to be stationed there that will be able to work with our employees on monitoring their chronic diseases, doing well visits, physicals, lab work, and also our new employees, as you know, when they have to get signed on, and sometimes it's opportunities to get an appointment with a doctor before they're supposed to be in their first day of class teaching. So it is just a win-win for this county to have such a great partnership, and not adding to our staff, but benefiting our staff. And just a quick reminder, the Orlando Science Center, the last day, if you haven't already been to go see Pompeii, is this Sunday. So hopefully you and your family can get out there and enjoy. And that concludes my report for my committees, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Calderon. Member Sanchez?
First, before I do my report, I wanted to share that on page 52 to 55 in the board book, related to Mr. Smith's comment about, salary schedules, I had requested that this be sent to the employees so they can see all the different, the compensation package with the Social Security, retirement, insurance, sick leave, everything. So you can see the whole total package, compensation plan for bachelor's degree, doctorate, and all the different things. So I think that should help a lot. It's in the board book, so anybody can pull it open and look at it. It's something that, a lot of us don't even really look at, but when you look at it, you see that it's quite a nice salary as far as I'm concerned. And then I had my first Zoom meeting, taking over Dr. Calderon's position on the board, and I had a great meeting. Zipline is doing really well. They made they were expected only to do like $9,000, but they made about $18,000 off of it this year. And they're working on the summer and spring programs along with virtual programs. So if anybody's interested, check out the Zoo link and go there and see all the programs that they're going to be offering over the summer and spring break. We talked about some things that needed to be fixed and some different activities that we could do virtually. Girl Scouts are going to be doing programs there as well, and making sure that the animals and everything are taken care of properly. The road is now open, so you can get there easily, coming in from Seminole Boulevard. So please, also, if you were a donor to the zoo or you want to be a donor to the zoo, please consider it, as we truly need all the help we can get. Even with the CARES Act money, they still need an extra amount of money, and I did donate my time to be on the board for fundraising. So anybody that has any fundraising materials or things they want to donate, please feel free, so I can start getting our auctions together for that. Coalition, the Central Florida School Board Coalition Group met last week, and we all are in all agreement, again, like I said last time, about making sure that we really want to utilize the data from testing for just data purposes and to see the growth of our students or to see where they need the extra support, and to lay off the VAM and the stress on our faculty, teachers, and students. And so the Chancellor, Jacob, spoke, and I asked him where we were at with all of that, and he said that it looks pretty promising. So keep our fingers crossed. Teachers, hope you're listening. Parents, hope you're listening. Still prepare as much as possible, but at the same time, we're all working together to hopefully get our testing used like we did last year, the same way. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Kraus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I attended the Business Advisory meeting where we had Dr. Weissong present to us in his new role, Thinking Beyond COVID, I think was the title. But he also spent quite a bit of time bragging about our graduation rate, which is a lot to brag about. We're very proud of that. Highest that it's ever been. What a way to go out, Dr. Griffin. I also attended the Children's Cabinet virtually, and this meeting was held a little bit differently. The emphasis of the Children's Cabinet is to share resources for children that are endangered, abused, need support, families that need support, and to promote the well-being of our children and students. So they hosted breakout sessions where we just in small groups, there's about 50 people on the meeting, and in small groups learned about the services that the different divisions of juvenile justice, the sheriff's office, Embrace Families. There were many organizations that I didn't know about. So I think the more that we can share resources, the better for the outcome for our students. And I'm looking forward tomorrow. Dr. Griffin and I are going to Lake Howell High School to have our student forum, and followed by a visit to Lyman, where we're hosting the first in the general Tri-County area, the first COVID vaccines for our staff that is 65 and older. So I look forward to that. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Kraus. Vice Chair Pennock?
You got one of the biggest updates from one of my committees, so the ILA, I hopefully calms down here. I had the audit committee meeting last week where we are convening to call in the members of the audit committee. If you received a notice that we had an audit finding because we had not hired our internal audit, our audit committee is rectifying that with meeting first to go through the training, to have them go through a RFP process. And we will also discuss the requirements that we need to fulfill that internal auditor role and start the process of meeting that need. That's all the updates that I have, but Abby, I just would like to send our condolences to your family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wanted to say thank you on behalf of all of us, to Alan Harris with Emergency Operations and Donna Walsh with the Health Department for bringing the clinic and vaccines to our employees who are 65 plus. Very much appreciated. I got to attend the Zero Eyes demonstration at Oviedo High School last week. I hope that you got to see the video clip. It was very, very impressive. It's all about prevention. And today we had mayors and managers, along with talking about the interlocal agreement. They also talked about the direct funding that will be coming into Seminole County, probably $14 million that will help citizens who are in a lower socioeconomic area to have rent and utility payments, hopefully mostly directly to the landlords and utility companies to make sure they get where they need to go. But the county manages that, and they're doing a really good job with that. That's all I have. My other committees have not met at this time. Ms. Beeman, do you have a request for us?
Yes, Chairman, I do. Good evening, board members. I am in need of advice concerning pending litigation against the school board, and as such, I've requested an executive session to take place on February 9th in the matter of, first, DeGroat versus the School Board of Seminole County. That's court case number 2019-CA-000121. And the second is Gonzalez versus the School Board of Seminole County, case number 2020-CA-001281. This meeting will be appropriately advertised, and outside counsel for the school board, Ms. Cindy Townsend, will be in attendance to participate in the session.
Thank you. Ms. Marimas, do you have this on our calendar? Do you have it on hold?
Yes, Madam Chair, you always, I did place a hold on all of your calendars, yes.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Under new business, I would like to now call a 5-minute recess. I show 7:21. So if you'll be back at 7:26, please. to reconvene. We'll give Ms. Sanchez another moment.
Here she comes. Don't fall there, Ms. Sanchez.
Oh. Thank you, everybody, for adhering to the time. I would like to reconvene the school board meeting. Superintendent Griffin, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, Madam Chair. My first recommendation is that the School Board of Seminole County approve the revised 2020-2021 superintendent search timeline.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent, do you have another recommendation?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. My second recommendation is that the School Board of Seminole County identify the superintendent finalist to be selected for interview.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Okay. Review of recommended format for selection of candidates for interview. I'm going to read this. As reflected in our established timeline, our task tonight is to identify the superintendent finalists who will be selected for interview by the board. As chairman of the board, I wish to express our thanks and appreciation for the outstanding job that the Superintendent Search Community Advisory Committee has done by identifying and providing the school board with a list of 5 finalists. The search committee has identified and presented to us the following candidates for superintendent, and I will now read their names in alphabetical order. Ms. Sarita Beeman, Mr. Harold Border, Mr. Chad Farnsworth, Mr. Scott Howitt, Mr. James Larson. In laying out a format to be used tonight, I would suggest that we begin the process by allowing each board member in roll call order to make comments about each candidate if you choose to do so. Following individual board member comments, a time for general discussion by the board will be provided. At the conclusion of general discussion, the board clerk will identify each candidate by name and ask for a vote from each board member in roll call order in order to identify the candidates to be contacted for interviews. Interviews will take place on February 17th and 18th. Each candidate who receives the majority vote of the board will be contacted for participation in the interview process. I will then ask if any board member has a desire to add a candidate to the list who applied for the position but was not submitted forward from our advisory committee. Should there be a recommendation that any additional candidates be considered, a majority vote of the board will be needed to add a candidate to the list of finalists for the interview. Board members, are you ready to proceed? Give me a nod of your head, that'd be great. Awesome, thank you. I will now call on you in roll call order to make comments about each candidate if you wish. Member Calderon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I too, at this point in time, want to thank the committee so very much for all of their time that they utilize not only in the committee meetings, but researching each of these candidates. And as far as, bless you, as far as the 5 candidates that have been suggested for us from this committee, I must say that all 5, I truly feel, can and will be a superintendent someday, somewhere. They all have phenomenal skill sets, but I think the challenge that the 5 of us have at this point in time is to find the right person at the right time that will sustain the culture that we have here in Seminole County Public Schools. And that's, as I was reviewing not only these 5, but every single applicant that applied, that's what I kept as my moral compass of what the team that we have here in the district is phenomenal. I kept in the back of my mind who is going to be that leader that can spark this team to keep going strong as they always have and always will, I know. And all 5 of these candidates are superintendent material, bar none. And since this is our first open discussion since our work session, Madam Chair, I really feel a need that I have to disclose something, to be honest, of something I did during this process. And I just want to throw it out there, maybe when we're done with our entire interview process, just to know, in the back of my mind, as I'm sure all of you, we lay awake at night knowing that this is one of the most important decisions that we'll ever make as a school board. And I just reflected on this year. It's been a different year. And when I reflected on the candidates that have been put forth and all the candidates that have applied, I didn't want to have 20/20 hindsight at the end of our process. So I took it upon myself to talk to some recruiting companies because, as you know, I sit on the Board of Trustees at Seminole State, and they hired a company, and we have a phenomenal president now at Seminole State in Dr. Lorenz. And I thought about maybe the timing of putting the notice out to get the best candidates for this right fit at this right time maybe needed to be asked to apply, because I know when I'm doing my job, I'm not spending time looking at want ads. I think we did an excellent job with having our phenomenal staff run this selection. They presented to us many wonderful applicants, but I just had to disclose to all of you what I did in researching it, just to have in the back of my mind to make sure that we have no stone left unturned, at the end of our process, to know that we have a current superintendent who's been so flexible with us that I just wanted to share with you that it was a possibility. Some of the companies I spoke with that have done Florida searches before, and one of the public comments from Dr. Siskin saying the sunshine here in Florida, it really hurts us, I think, in getting, and again, I don't want quantity of candidates, I want quality candidates, and I do feel we have some quality candidates, but I just want to make sure that every quality candidate in the United States knew that this is the best school district in the nation to be superintendent of. I'm not so sure they might not have read all the want ads. So that's my thought, and at this point in time, I don't have to share individual comments on these 5 because I think they're all phenomenal superintendent material. But we need to decide on who's the right person at the right time to sustain our culture that we have in Seminole County Public Schools. So that's how I will be looking at this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Calderon. Member Sanchez?
I'd like to echo the same thing in the fact that all the candidates that have submitted their applications are stellar, and I was extremely impressed with reading many of their letter of recommendations and everything that they had to offer. And in today's complex world, a lot with everything that's going on, it's extremely important that we get the best fit person for this job. It's weird for me because back in the day, I was the one that was on the other side, selecting and helping, and on the superintendent search committee. So I know how much work that they put into it and how much time all the candidates, as well as the people that helped them prepare their packets and wrote letters for them. And, it's like Dr. Calderon said, you know, I admire and respect every single one of them that applied and everything that they have to offer. But of course, making the best decision on behalf of what is best for our district at this time is critical. You know, I want somebody that's going to be a great listener, and like all 5 that we have there, as well as some of the other ones, are great listeners, aren't afraid to take risks, and somebody that's willing to not be afraid that, you know, something may fail, that we learn from our mistakes and that we grow from them, as we know we have had things, and we just tweak it. And working together and having that family atmosphere that we have right now is so critical in today's time, or any time as far as I'm concerned. We're a well-oiled machine. So just want somebody that's continually, you know, keeping us up there as the top premier school district and continuing our vocational technology programs, as well as all of our innovative programs that we have, that we offer throughout our fabulous school district. So saying that, thank you to everybody that served on the committee. Thank you for all the candidates for submitting their applications, and for the 5 finalists that made that to that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Sanchez. Member Kraus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be brief. First and foremost, Dr. Griffin, you're leaving some very big shoes to fill. And I think that we have received a fabulous recommendation from the committee. There were 2 candidates that were outstanding in my eyes, and I look forward to meeting in person and interviewing. And I will just thank the committee again for the amount of hours. Mr. Russi, Mr. Carnes, thank you for helping with all of this process. You can still change your mind. We'll be happy to revisit that vote. But thank you all, and to the applicants, we appreciate you. Thank you for wanting to work for the best district in Florida. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Vice Chair Penna?
Dr. Griffin, I've referred to you as the unicorn lately. Very big shoes to fill. And while we did get some great candidates, I did something very similar. Dr. Calderon, I went out and I spoke to some staff in Tallahassee and some recruiters to see if what we received in candidates was what the market was experiencing, and how our process differed from others. And think that I agree. I want to make sure that no stone is left unturned, and that we can't go back, and we don't have regrets. Education doesn't look like it did a year ago, and I don't think that next year it's going to look like it does now. And I think we owe it to the teachers. We owe it to everyone who took time to fill out the survey and provide us with what they wanted in our leader. We need to listen to that. And I feel like we have more due diligence to do. I'm losing sleep over this, because this is the biggest decision that we have to make. And I appreciate everyone who has served on the committee, who has reached out and provided us with input. I look forward to what comes of tonight, but we have a lot of work ahead of us in filling your shoes and in keeping that person in the right path. I'm not going to make comments on specific candidates at this moment. I'm done.
Thank you. I echo your sentiments, board members. I also want to thank all the candidates that applied. We're an A-rated, top-performing district, and it would take someone with skill and someone who's very brave to want to walk in Dr. Griffin's shoes, because the bar has been set very, very high, and we expect it to continue to improve. I am very confident in the team that we have, that they will rally and support whomever is selected as superintendent and to help them shine in support of our students and our faculty. So those are my comments for now. Madam Clerk, please identify each candidate by name and ask for a vote from each board member in roll call order.
The board members, I will be calling on you in roll call order, and the candidates are in alphabetic order. A yes or a no when I call your name. The first candidate for a vote is Ms. Beeman. Member Calderon.
Yes.
Member Sanchez.
Yes.
Member Kraus.
Yes.
Vice Chair Pennick. Chair Alman.
Yes.
The next candidate is Mr. Border. Member Calderon.
No.
Member Sanchez.
No.
Member Kraus.
No.
Vice Chair Pennick.
No.
Chair Alman.
No.
The next candidate is Mr. Farnsworth. Member Calderon.
Yes.
Member Sanchez.
Yes.
Member Kraus.
Yes.
Vice Chair Pennick.
Yes.
Chair Alman.
Yes.
The next candidate is Mr. Howitt. Member Calderon.
No.
Member Sanchez.
Yes.
Member Kraus.
No. No.
Vice Chair Pennick.
No.
Chair Alman.
No.
The next candidate is Mr. Larson. Member Calderon.
No.
Member Sanchez.
No.
Member Kraus.
No.
Vice Chair Pennick.
No.
Chair Alman.
No.
I give the floor back to you, Chair Alman.
Please repeat that.
I'm giving the floor back to you to ask the board if there are any further nominations for consideration.
Thank you. Board members, I will now call on you in roll call order to ask if you have a desire to add a candidate to the list who applied for the position but was not submitted forward from the advisory committee. Member Calderon.
Well, I did investigate many of the other candidates. I am not going to put any further names in at this time.
Thank you. Member Sanchez.
No.
Thank you. Member Kraus.
No, I do not. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock.
No, ma'am.
Thank you. And I as well am no.
Member Alman.
Thank you. Hearing no additional candidates, Madam Clerk, can you please read the vote result?
Yes, ma'am. By a majority vote, the following candidates will be brought forward for consideration and interview. Ms. Beeman and Mr. Farnsworth.
Thank you. I would like now to call up Mr. Mark Rusty to share next steps with us, please.
No, Dr. Griffin. Just next steps going forward. So you're aware, on behalf of the board, I'll be emailing all of the candidates that applied for the position that were not selected for interview. They'll receive an email letting them know that this process at this point has been concluded and they will not be considered as a finalist. The finalists in the that you're going to be moving forward, I'll send them an email also, making them aware that they have been selected as a finalist. Also, I'll kind of give them a timeline of what it'll look like going forward, that we'll have group interviews with the board during a work session on the 17th. I'll provide them the times at a later date. I'll also let them know that on the 18th, there'll be individual interviews with each of you and provide that opportunity for them to meet with you. Also, in the email that I'll provide them, I'll also send them one question that we will be asking them to respond to and we'll give them approximately 1 week to respond. That question will ask them to answer in 2 pages or less, and then we'll provide that response to the board for review well prior to the first interview session. Also, just so you're aware, on February 23rd, at that point, all interviews have been concluded. We'll be bringing 2 action items forward to you at that time. One is to consider selecting a new superintendent for Seminole County Public Schools to be the first action item. And the second will be to direct staff to enter negotiations with the new superintendent going forward. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Rusty. Board members, any questions?
I just wanted to make a comment. I know that.
Yes, please.
I know that a lot of superintendents in the state of Florida are elected, and I just wanted to bring that out, just so people realize that 41 out of the 67 superintendents are elected and not appointed, so only 26 are. So we're very fortunate that we are able to do that, because we have so many that are not, they're elected officials that have never stepped foot in a school building. Thank you, and thank you for everything you guys are doing.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you and my fellow board members, even though tonight we did approve of the calendar, and based on our vote, I didn't want to say too much before we all voted, but I didn't know if we still wanted to stay with that calendar, in that I didn't know, Mrs. Pennick, I don't know who you talked to, but I don't know what the other board members feel like if we do want to entertain having someone, depending on what happens with these interviews. I don't know. This is the only time we can discuss these kind of things, is in an open forum. So when I sat here and I listened to Mr. Russi remind us that the candidates will have the chance to respond with 2 pages, I don't know if it needs 3 weeks to respond to that question, or if we want to move that timeline. Are we still comfortable with it? I'm just asking. I mean, I'm comfortable with whatever the pleasure of this board is, but I wanted to make sure that we had a total conversation tonight, since this will be our last chance to have a conversation in the public until our next meeting, that we're still comfortable with the timeline that we have.
Board members, anyone uncomfortable with it? I think we're comfortable, Dr. Calderon.
Okay, good.
I do have one comment. I feel like this is drawn out so long, and maybe that's where part of what your point is do we need to speed up the timeline?
It is, now that we
Because now
have
we only
2
have 2.
people that we're going to interview, where potentially we were looking at potentially 5 people to interview. Do we want to shorten this process? I don't know, Mr. Russi, if it's too much of a burden on your team. I want to do what's best for the candidates. I want to do what's best for the district, and would love your professional advice.
Member Calderon, I don't believe there's any burden on the staff at all. I think it's more concerning. I know one of the candidates obviously is in-house, but one is an external candidate. So obviously we would need to reach out to them. I'm sure they would make themselves available if the board wanted to accelerate the process. We were providing approximately 1 week to respond to this question, which kind of made sense. But then that was an additional over 2 weeks before you would actually meet with them after you receive that response. So we could look at accelerating that if that is the desire of the board.
It looks like right now the finalist interviews are February 17th and 18th.
Correct.
So board members, are you interested in going a week or 2 weeks earlier for the finalist interviews? So you can have more time for discussion after?
They could do the walk with us.
So can you just clarify, because our timeline is, sorry, in front of me.
February 23rd is when we decide.
The February 17th and 18th would be interview days.
I don't know that it's, the input that I received and I see from staff is that this is a very long process for them and a very unsettling process for them. And I think the faster that we can settle this, I know we don't meet before February 23rd, so it doesn't resolve that concern. That would be my input that agreed with you on should we accelerate this is my concern. Staff.
That's the feedback that I got from some staff members as well, that, so many of our staff members were involved since the beginning of the process and, the questionnaires and attending all the meetings. And now, sometimes you have to go slow to go fast, but I want to make sure that we give ourselves enough time, but also give the new superintendent time. So I'm fine with keeping it on this schedule. I just wanted to have an open, honest discussion with everyone. I mean, I know that's our regularly scheduled school board meeting is February 23rd, but we've had single item board meetings before, and we've got plenty of time for the clerk to advertise it if we wanted to have another meeting earlier.
Also, Dr. Calderon, we do have, I just spoke to the clerk, and we do have an open discussion. The board has an open discussion on the 9th. If we accelerated the process doing interviews earlier prior to the 9th, that would give you an opportunity to discuss it after the interview process, before the February 23rd board meeting.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Member Kraus.
Mr. Russi, could we survey both of the applicants and make sure they're prepared and invite them to February 9th if the board is in agreement? Could we do that? Could you survey them tomorrow, and then if they're not available, then we'll stick with these dates, but that moves it up a week.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Clerk, did we have?
Mr. Russi,
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't hear all the comments because I can hear myself on a delay over my own conversation. But I think about how difficult it is for us to get on the same calendar at the same time. And I hesitate to try and move it in such a short period of time.
Madam Chairman, did you hear that we have a work session on February 9th?
Any other comments, board members? Mr. Russi, do you need further direction?
Yes, ma'am. I think Member Kraus is asking a question, Chairman Allman.
Madam
Please,
Chairman,
yes, and then maybe you could repeat it for me.
on February 9th, we have an open discussion work session. And I asked if Mr. Russi would contact both applicants to see if they could accelerate the schedule to February 9th.
Ms. Kraus, I think as far as for the work session, I don't know if we would do the interviews on the 9th at the work session. I think what you maybe we're discussing was trying to do them prior, because at the 9th, that would provide the board an opportunity to discuss it, because we're going to have a work session where you actually do interviews as a group interview, and then we're going to have a separate time for you to do your individual interviews. So probably if we were really trying to accelerate this forward, we would have to do those interviews prior to the 9th. That would provide the board an opportunity on the 9th to have a conversation about the candidates.
Understood. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
could we do the interviews on February 2nd and 3rd with everybody's crazy schedules? I know that some is impossible for everybody's schedules. I was just looking at mine, and that would bump it up instead of February 17th and 18th. Is that a possibility?
I
have availability.
I'm not free on the 2nd. I am free on the 3rd.
Okay. So is it my understanding when we do the interviewing that it would be one of those 2 days for us, meaning each one of us, or the candidates would have to be available on either day for them to have their separate interviews with us? Or do we need 1 day or do we need 2 days?
Normally, we'd need 2 days. 1 day would be your group interviews that first day. The second day would be your individual meetings.
Okay. And see, that's going to be the hard part, is trying to fit everybody's crazy schedules in with everything going on. With the physics bus, more high school forums, Teacher of the Year event.
But we only have 2 candidates.
Correct.
And if memory serves me correct, to 10 years ago, we sat as a board around the table here and interviewed the candidates back to back to back as a board. And I think it was for our time, because there were so many candidates, that we chose to do 1 day of group interviews and then 1 day of individual. But with only 2 candidates, if the clerk holds the keys to the kingdom at this point, she can see all 5 of our calendars at this point in time. There might be a full day or 2 half days, I hear the 2nd isn't good, but maybe the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, to allow for us to give enough time to both of the candidates our undivided attention. I have no problem moving the time frame up, because once we review that response to the email, it's like we're sitting here for weeks, and I'd rather have it all fresh in our mind.
Madam Chair, would it be acceptable with you and the board if you, board clerk, and myself look at calendars tomorrow and see if we can find an acceptable time?
I'm open to that.
Then I guess the question, board members, with 2 candidates, probably could do the one-on-ones earlier in the day, and then in the afternoon, do the group. You could probably do it all in 1 day with just 2 candidates, which would be easier to schedule.
I actually like doing the groups first, because in my individual one-on-ones, I like to ask follow-ups
We can do that,
sometimes,
'cause
if
all in
that's
1 day, just
okay.
do the group first, and then the trick will just be finding a day that we could do that, if that's what you're interested in doing. We can work on that tomorrow.
I could do 1 day or 2 days, it doesn't bother me.
The preference is to do the group and then the individuals. So
That's fine.
That's I don't know what everybody else feels.
we'll let the holder of the keys to the kingdom work on that tomorrow.
So then, does that
Madam Clerk, do we
mean?
have to re-advertise that?
Yeah, that was going to be my question.
Jill,
Madam Chair, re-advertise.
do we have to would we have to re-advertise and reapprove the timeline?
You would have to approve, the timeline would need to come back before you. And I don't know that we have an opportunity to do that before the next board meeting's on the 9th.
Maybe the superintendent could rescind his recommendation and make a new recommendation, since this meeting hasn't concluded yet.
Or I could withdraw the motion, either or.
The group is advertised, and I haven't advertised it yet because it's treated like a work session, even though we don't. It's an interview with you guys, so that would have to be run in the paper. But I haven't done that yet, and I have time to do that if we're looking at the first week of February. There's still time to advertise that. Yes, it's just a matter of finding a day when everyone is available.
Madam Chairman, can you hear
So
me?
you and Dr. Griffin will work on that?
Is it possible to modify the timeline where it just states that the interviews would be at the beginning of February and leave it open for the scheduling of not only the school board, but also the candidates themselves? Can we leave it open-ended? Or does it have to have a specific date?
I would think you could leave it open-ended.
Well, that was my question, because on the calendar that we approved with the superintendent's recommendation tonight, it was set dates, and so I'm comfortable with entertaining a new recommendation with flexibility, with a date range rather than date certain, if we're allowed to do that.
We do
And who will make that determination?
We have legal
We have
counsel here,
counsel
Madam
here.
Chair. Maybe we could hear from him. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Thank you all. I think that's fine for purposes of your recommendation of vote today, so long as the advertisement, a specific date is provided.
Yes.
So coming out of here today, I think you're certainly free to leave it loose in the joint so long as the advertisement says on this day this will happen. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Board members, before we conclude,
Okay.
before we conclude the discussion, look at February 8th. On my counter, that's all of our review times. Maybe we can, I'm not sure if you are available that entire day. I can reschedule my meetings.
I just have the coalition meeting in the morning, but I can easily do that.
Be excused for them.
Yeah. Yeah,
We'll give you a pass, Ms. Sanchez.
thank you.
I could miss my science
What
center.
is-
Oh, but
That's not
that's
till
when open
4:30.
enrollment's due
Eighth
for
work?
everybody, so I do need I can do that first thing.
Is it February the 8th, Jill? Is that the date?
Yes, Madam Chair, Monday, February 8th.
Okay, well, I can certainly reschedule my board book review.
Do I need to modify the motion? Or can we leave it open verbiage, like you said, no later than February 9th or 19th?
As long as we advertise the date. Yeah.
Right.
Can I just make a comment before we move further? I've had calls, I've had emails, as I'm sure maybe you guys have as well, that we're doing an inside job here and fast-tracking this to have an internal candidate get into the role. I'm concerned that the appearance of us moving this forward so fast will lend to those rumors, and I just feel like I need to get that off of my chest. It's a rumor, it's not true, we've not picked a candidate, we are going through this process here live, but that is just something that is weighing on my chest right now, and I just wanted to get it off.
Thank you.
And
I can
my
see your
only
point,
re-
Amy.
Dr. Calderon had a comment.
No, I think Madam Chair was saying something.
I said I can see Amy's point of view.
And I guess the reason that I even looked at the date was just in case we wanted to entertain a discussion afterwards to give ourselves enough time to do that, and to support the comments I've heard from staff that they would like the process perhaps more compact, so we know our future in the direction that we're headed. And I'm just trying to front load our time frame up front. And I agree with you, Ms. Pennick, that was my fear, and that's why I called some recruiting companies, because I didn't want candidates who didn't know who we were personally to think that it was an inside job because we were having our staff do it rather than an external entity. And I just want to be totally transparent and open with the public that this is not an inside job. We truly did a national search. We went to every publication known within the educational and other arenas, and as I said, we got some excellent, excellent candidates, and I'm very hopeful to find the person who will take over after Dr. Griffin. So I just want to be transparent in all of our comments.
So where do we stand now?
I'm confused. Sorry, I'm being honest.
I'm fine with moving the time frame.
I am as well.
Do we want to
I hear two
entertain?
people say they're fine.
Would the board want to entertain February 8th? The earlier part of the day, we'll define the times, will be the group interviews. That's where all 5 board members would sit with the 2 candidates. I think about 90 minutes each, I believe that is. Take a break, and then schedule the one-on-ones with the 2 candidates all on February 8th. And then you have a work session on the 9th, an open discussion if there's anything that you want to talk about.
That's fine.
That sounds perfect to me. Madam Chair, can I modify the motion to state that, or do we need to check with the
I can
applicants?
Go ahead.
Well, is that with the intent for us to vote on the candidate on the 9th or the 23rd? I guess that's, or are we, because
The
that's
20
part of the discussion.
The 9th would be just a discussion. The 23rd would be the next board meeting where you could actually take an action.
I have a board meeting on the 9th.
You do have a board meeting. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, the 8th is, that's right, yeah.
Right, and this way, the work session and everything will be that day as well, on the 9th.
So Dr. Griffin, do you need to make a recommendation on the
Yes.
timeline?
Yes, okay, my recommendation is to amend the superintendent search timeline so that the finalist interviews are Monday, February 8th, and the school board meeting to select the new superintendent with this discussion regarding contract, February 9th.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Board members, anything else?
I have one more
With
thing.
no further business?
Madam Chair,
Madam Chair?
I have one more thing.
Who do I hear?
Christine
Yes, Ms.
House,
Kraus.
Ms. Krause.
I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Almond, on Friday.
I hope you
Thank
have
you.
a...
And thank you for accommodating me today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
The